All right, today I bring to you a knife from Alex over at the Watch and Cut Gear channel, my good friend and co-host on the EDC Hour. This is a knife that he has been working with the maker on for 3+ years. Sometimes, guys, there is a long lead time on handmade customs. There's no CNC on this. It's all hand done by the maker in New York. This is a really cool knife, even though it's a front flipper only. Well, you can reverse flick. There's a couple ways, and we'll talk about that. But it's a front flipper. I don't really like front flippers. I wish this had a thumb stud, and I would be all over it. I would probably try to get one. And if I had to wait 3 years, I'd wait 3 years. It's okay. When you get into these higher end knives and these more custom knives, that is a thing. The weight is a thing. The front flipping action works fantastic. Before I get too far along, the maker is Lodato, and this is the Vulcan model. Now, this guy is not new to the scene. He's been making knives since 2013. And we're just going to zoom in while I kind of ramble a minute. He's been making knives since 2013. You just may not have heard of him because he's extremely underrated. Look at just the finish, the fit, everything on here. There's a little bit of a seam between the carbon fiber and the bolster, but it's because you're not even really feeling the seam. You're just feeling the smoothness of the carbon fiber and then a little bit of less smoothness of the titanium. Even has put the carbon fiber, or is that the Damascus on the pivot collar? It's really hard to tell because the patterns are very similar between the fat carbon fiber, that's the raindrop carbon fiber with copper or brass. They look very similar, the copper and the brass. Alex thinks he got the brass. He doesn't remember now. And he just got this recently. But this material is no longer available, from what we understand. Same with the Damascus pattern, of which I don't even know who made it. I don't think Alex remembers that either. Okay. I want to say that this is the Damascus pivot colors because the coloring is more like the blade steel. And I love the fact that he has carried the blade steel to the pivot collars, to the pocket clip, and even into the backspacer. I love how makers do that. And there are a lot of people that do use the same material for the blade as the backspacer because for machining purposes and whatnot, it's just easier. It's more of a consistent grind. There's less fit up and making sure that this is the same thickness as back here. And I'm talking kind of out my, because I don't do that. But in talking to makers over the years, that's why they like to use the same material for the blade and the backspacer. For me as a collector, I think it's fantastic. If I had a preference to build a knife or work with a maker, the backspacer would be the same material as the blade most times. Most times. Sometimes a Damascus backspacer is just fantastic. And that's okay too. All right, so you haven't heard of him maybe because he just doesn't make a ton of knives. Probably has a full-time day job. But when he does make a knife, it's pretty amazing. There is nothing, I really got nothing bad to say other than it's just a front flipper. Now, you can get your finger in here and reverse flick it. Okay, so it's a front flipper and a reverse flicker. My two least favorite stupid opening methods. You can get your thumb in here in the fuller and you can thumb it open. Okay, it's got some redeemable qualities now for me. And that works really well. I do kind of wish there was a thumb stud right up here. It's just a little more natural for my thumb to land and go. Here I got to kind of really cock my thumb and get it into the fuller and miss sometimes. But for this knife, I just front flip it. It's fine. It works. Super smooth. All right, so some of the specs on this: 4 3/4, 8 1/8 overall, 3.5-inch blade. It's pretty consistent behind the edge at 0.021 up here on the front, and then 0.013 here on the back. So it's a little thinner back here for cutting, a little bit wider up here for piercing and strength and whatnot. I think it works fantastic. So weighs in at 5.5 ounces, just a little bit bigger and heavier than your D cell battery. Okay. Again, like I said before, no CNC. This is all just hand work. Now, one thing that could be slightly cooler for me personally and my tastes is you have almost hidden hardware here on the pocket clip. The screws come in from the backside to hold the pocket clip together. I would have rather them not drill all the way through so you could see the button head part, or not the button head, but the, the end of the screw is here. And I would prefer that just stops in the middle of the pocket clip. Total nitpick. It's okay. That's my personal preference. And I think it would be super cool to have hidden hardware here for the scales. Almost hidden. I mean, they're hidden here. You can see them under, but they're kind of hidden by the pocket clip, which I think is fantastic. And if you look at the pocket clip pattern and the carbon fiber pattern, like, they don't match exactly, but they're pretty, it's pretty cool how it really kind of blends in. And in certain light and certain angles, the pocket clip almost sort of kind of disappears because it just matches in with the scales. I think that's super cool. That's real attention to detail. So, not that I want to say anything negative about it, because the screws protruding here is a design feature. Having exposed hardware, again, is a design feature. So I'm okay with that. Dirk's perfect world, more hidden hardware. That's all. That's all. Yeah. So I think it's a super cool knife. It works really well in the pocket. I've had it in and out of the pocket I've had it here for a couple of weeks. I've just been kind of behind on filming a bunch of Alex's stuff. So, but I've enjoyed it. There it is with the Sharpie. Here it is with the Spyderco Delica. And one last thing I want to touch on is there's a couple of different ways to etch your Damascus. This is really a dark etch, which I love. Now I own some more lighter etches where you have more, of the steel color, and it's just lighter, right? And here's another example of that lighter style of etching. Okay, this is the TJ Fisher Cobra and the Frank Fisher Fury. Okay, but I always prefer the darker etch so that the blade is not black, but it's a really dark gray. And I hope you can kind of see that. It's really dark. Maybe it's a light black or a dark gray. And to kind of show you the contrast again here, I just prefer the darker etch. I'm also the guy that kind of likes PVD and DLC coated blades because they're just darker. And that's more of a aesthetic appeal to me than the brighter etches. Again, that's personal issue. I think it works really well on this one for sure because of the white scales and, the polished perimeters and things like that. So I'm not saying I don't buy a knife if it's not a dark etched Damascus. Obviously, I own several. Just a preference. So there you go. Down in the description, I'm going to put a link to Landon's website. It's Lodato Knives. I will put a link down there to his website and to his Instagram. I think he's probably like most people, more active on his Instagram and keeping that updated than he is on updating and keeping current on his website. So check him out. I don't know if he's really actively making knives right now. Alex said he had kind of slowed down, but Alex kind of hit him up just to touch base. And he said, yeah, I'm actually thinking about working on your knife or whatever. And that's how this kind of came to fruition now, 3-ish years after they discussed the design and the whatnot. So, hey, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, comment down below something. Just let me know you're here. I appreciate it. Have a great day.